It's an absolute fact of life that everybody has the right attitude occasionally. Now the question is, how do you maintain that attitude in a world where you've got a lot of negatives? So that's the reason this particular session is entitled Building and Maintaining a Winning Attitude. I heard about a college professor who was told by his wife one morning as he headed off for college to teach his classes. He said, she said, today we're moving. Here's the address of the new house. We're not going to be here when you get here. Go to the new house. He said, no problem. That afternoon he showed up at the old house and it was empty. Didn't see anybody there. Then he looked in the neighbor's yard and there had a little boy playing. And he called him. He said, son, do you know the family that did live here? He said, oh, yes, sir. He said, I know them quite well. He said, do you have any idea where they've gone? Little boy said, yes, sir, I do. And he says, as a matter of fact, Mom told me you'd probably forget. Now, really, I talk about a positive attitude. This really is the right life attitude. You see, some things don't necessarily call for positive thinking, but all things call for right thinking, mature thinking, sound thinking. And this is the way we go through life. We need the right thinking as far as our job is concerned, the right attitude with our family, our company, our community, our country. The right attitude is important. I love what Chuck Swindoll said about it. He said, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education. It is more important than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, gifted ability, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace from that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing that we can do is play on the one string that we have, and this string is attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. Attitudes are important. In today's life, we hear a lot of talk about pushing the envelope, playing it close to the edge, and all of those other things. Now, the American worker is recognized as being the most productive worker in the world. But if you were to look at corporate America at 8 o'clock in the morning, if they're supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock, at 1 minute till 8, you see really a helter-skelter affair going on in most offices and plants and factories. I mean, they're in a dead run to get there, And they walk in all huffing and puffing, and they hustle back and get them a cup of coffee, and they scoot back to their workstation, And by the time they start to work, it's 10 minutes after starting time. If you were to look in on corporate America with videotapes at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, what you would see is the American worker all lined up in a three-point stance. And at 5 o'clock, man alive, do they ever get out? And, now that's okay if that's what they really want to do. But it's the little things that make the big difference. My watch is 4 hours wrong. I don't have a problem with it. I can tell you that at 3 o'clock in the morning if it's 4 hours wrong. But if it's 4 minutes wrong, then I got a problem. See, if my plane is supposed to leave at 11:06 and I get there at 11:10, well, you get the picture. Because I made a deal with airlines years ago that if I wasn't there when they got ready to go, that they were just to go ahead without me. And I found out that, they live up to their end of their agreement, okay? Now, this business of getting there early, I'm not necessarily advocating that, but I am saying if you would just get there 10 minutes early, casually take the necessary equipment that you need to get started, get the cup of coffee, and the moment your paycheck starts, your workday starts. At 5 o'clock, you work until 5. And then you pack up to leave. Now, that's not a heavy burden, but what will happen is if you do that, instead of being caught in the mass of people running out at 5 o'clock where your life is in danger, they talk about dangers of the freeway, the danger is getting out of the building and out of the parking lot. 10 minutes later, you can leave in peace and quiet and safety. And I'll tell you something else. The boss is looking. They really are. Do we give a little extra? It's a part of the blanket that hangs over the bed that keeps you warm. And if you don't believe that, you've never been in the service and been short-sheeted. I'll just tell you that right now. You call a girl a kid and you score all kind of points. Call her a cat and I don't need to tell you, you got a problem, okay? It's the little things that make a difference. Call her a vision and man alive, you're home free. Call her a sight and oh brother. Well, anyhow, now what I've got on the screen and what you who have the set of tapes are listening to, I've got the qualities we've identified earlier as being the qualities of success. Complete success. I was so amused when the last presidential election took place and 3 outstanding candidates were talking about family values. And interestingly enough, they never were able to identify the family values. You know, they discussed back and forth. But I challenge you as you look at the card which came with your set of tapes, and then for the benefit of the live audience, the qualities we've thrown on the overhead, you look at those qualities and ask yourself, wouldn't you love to have a husband or a wife with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have kids with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have every teacher in our educational system and every administrator with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have a boss and employees with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have every politician in America from dog catcher right on up who had every one of those qualities? Now the reality you see is none of those are just family values, are just business values, are just educational values. They're all life values. Check the records. The thing that makes a person a good husband or a good wife, the qualities there will also make them a better employee or a better office holder or a better FBI agent or a better whatever it is that they do in their life. You see, these qualities are life qualities. I challenge you to locate one quality there that you would not want your child taught in school, with the possible exception of faith. But everything else, would you want your child taught those? What kind of child would you be raising? I can guarantee you it would be a magnificent child. Now, as you probably noticed already in this series, I'm talking about a lot of things that take time. It takes time to claim the qualities. It takes time to be nice and courteous to people. It takes time to do your job. It takes a little time to get there a few minutes earlier and stay a little bit longer. But the reality is, you see, we do not have a shortage of time. Everybody in America's got exactly the same amount, 24 hours a day. What we do have is a lot of problem with our direction. Again, I refer you to the day vacation attitude when you got so much more done simply because you had organized that time in an entirely different way. Now, the question is, are we really affected by what goes into our mind? Reader's Digest recently had an interesting article that pointed out that 31% of the kids in America between ages 4 and 5, if given a choice, would prefer the television set over their dad. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is frightening to say the least. Let me ask you a question. In this live audience, how many of you have ever gone to a movie and laughed? Can I see your hands, please? How many have ever gone to a movie and cried? Now, do you really think it's because they put something in the seats? Or was it because they put something on the screen that went in your mind, that affected your thinking, that aroused you emotionally? That's what I'm talking about there. Repetition really does communicate a message. I'd like to get you to demonstrate that. Question, does what goes in your mind have any impact on your behavior? Finish this for me if you will. Pepsi Cola hits the 12-ounce bottle. That's a drink. Coca-Cola, the pause, that I'd walk a mile for a does. It's been over 40 years since any of those commercials were used. But there were tens of thousands of impressions made of those commercials, all right? Does seeing what somebody else does affect what you do? Let me get you to do this. Empty your hands, if you will, please. Just empty your hands and put them in front of you. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, go. And then I'd like for you just to slap your hands, okay? 1, 2, 3, go. Now, go ahead, reverse the tape, play it back. And you will know that the instructions were crystal clear. I did not stutter. Absolutely clear. And yet fully 90% of you paid absolutely no attention to what I said. You did exactly what I did. You see, people pay more attention to what you do than what you say. They won't believe everything you say always, but they will believe everything that you do. You can absolutely count on it. And you know, life sometimes brings some interesting challenges, interesting opportunities, I guess I should say. I heard about this fellow that was playing golf. And he was on the first tee, you know, and he stepped up and he tees that ball up and he busts that sucker about 200 yards straight and about 150 yards to the right. Well, one of the pros was riding with him, and he said, well, I just know that we're not going to be able to find out unless just go ahead. And so he teed up again, and he hit another, and they went out. And as they were putting out on the first green, they saw this cart coming down at breakneck speed, and it was another one of the assistant pros there, and he was really riding down there, and he came up to the green, and he said, who hit that horrendous slice that went all the way over? And the governor's wife was playing golf with me, and she was in the cart, we were in the wood, and it hit her right up beside the head. Now, who hit that horrendous slice? And this guy very timidly said, I did. The other assistant pro said, well, I want you to know that I've talked to the governor, and he is enormously upset. I mean, he is furious. And the guy said, well, what do you think I should do? He said, well, you should play it a little more off your left toe and strengthen your grip. That's what you ought to do. And sometimes things come out a little different than we had thought. Okay, now, to maintain the right mental attitude, that's the key. You do it by reversing the way you get out of bed. No, I'm not talking about getting out of bed backwards, but you know the way most people get out of bed, the alarm clock, misnamed, it really is an opportunity clock. I mean, if you can hear it, that gives you an opportunity to get up and go. And if you can't hear it, that might mean you done got up and gone. And depending on what you believe, that can be very bad. That alarm clock for these people sounds off, you know, and they're going to reach over and they finally find it and they turn it off and then they slap their face and said, hon, is it already time to get up? Oh, it seemed like we just lay down. I'm going to go to bed earlier tonight, I guarantee you. I know, now, no, I haven't been in your home visiting. That just, you know, that's just the way a whole lot of people get up. Now, instead of doing that, let's reverse the way you get out of bed. The opportunity clock sounds off for you. You reach over and shut it off. I think that is very important. And you sit straight up on the side of your bed and you slap your hands and you say, oh boy! It's a great day to get up and go to work today. Now, I want you to get the picture. There you are, 2/3 asleep. Your hair is all down in your eyes. You're trying to slap your hands, and sometimes you hit it, and sometimes you're missing. And you're saying, oh, boy, it's a good day to get up and go to work. And, hey, friend, that ain't the way you feel at all. I'm telling you. But let me tell you something. You see, when the clock goes off, you do not decide to get up. You decided that when you set the clock. What you now decide is, how am I going to get up? Am I going to get up with excitement and enthusiasm? or am I going to get up looking like the picture on my driver's license? You gotta, you gotta make a decision as to how you're going to get up. Now, despite the fact that you might not really feel that good, you are up. And that's where you had made the decision to be the night before. And then you go in the shower, and while you're taking that shower, you do a little singing. And I know what a lot of people's voices are, but it's amazing what will happen. You see, what you're doing is something that is psychologically very sound. When you sow an action, and that's what you're doing. You don't think about it, you just do it. It's an instinct, it's a reflection when you do this a while. You hop on the side of the bed, you sow an action, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny. A number of years ago, I had a lady, 85 years old, say to me later, she said, when you told me that, I thought that was the silliest thing I had ever heard a grown man say. 85 years old, and you want me to get up on the side of the bed and slap my hands like a child? Why, she said, that's silly, and I knew it was. But I lay down that night, and I thought to myself, well, I do live by myself. And nobody, and nobody's going to know about it but me. And she said, why not? I mean, you're only, young at once in your life. And she's one of these people that qualifies as being a youngster. So the next morning that alarm clock sounded. She said, I sat up on the side of the bed, and she said, I drew back to slap my hand, but I couldn't do it. I got so tickled. And I laughed at myself all day long. She had a wonderful day. How many of you ever participated in organized team sports? Can I see your hands, please? How many of you ever went out for practice when you just flat did not want to go out for practice? Can I see your hands? You ever get out there and say, well, the coach said he's going to can me if I ever miss another practice. I'm out here, but I ain't going to do anything. He ain't watching me anyhow. And then after you've been out there about 10 minutes, you say, well, as long as I'm here. How many of you ever went out for practice feeling awful and 10 minutes later felt good? Can I see your hands? You see, a lot of people say, well, when I get motivated, I'll do it. Hey, friend, you got it backwards. Do it, and you'll feel like doing it. You'll be motivated then to do it. You take that action is what I'm talking about. Start the day like that. Do I do this every day? Nope. Did I used to do it? Yep. Why not do it now? I don't need to. But let me tell you something. If I get a late wake-up call somewhere, and then I got to get in a dead run. Man, I hop up, I slap my hand, I say, yippee! And I head for the shower. And I mean, it really does get you moving a whole lot faster, all right? Now, if you've gotten up early enough, you then need to make a phone call. Call somebody whom you love, admire, and respect. Call that person and simply say to them, I've been thinking about you, and I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate you as an individual. You're one of the people that's had a big influence on my life. You really are an asset to your community. You're a credit to the profession you're in. Just wanted to call you and say thank you for being my friend. Now, something happens there. First of all, your friend is tremendously encouraged. But second, you're inspired. You see, psychologically and theologically, you're on sound ground. Physiologically, you're on sound ground. See, physiologically, what happens is that when you do this early in the morning, it jumpstarts the flow of serotonin in that brain of yours, and that's the feel-good neurotransmitter. You feel good about yourself when you do something nice for somebody else. Got a speaker friend. He heard me go through this one time, and he thought to himself, I'm going to give that a shot. I ain't going to do it in the morning, but I will do it at night. Every Saturday night, then, what he does is he calls somebody whom he hasn't talked to in some little while. And he'll just call them and tell them how much he appreciates them. And he said, Zig, it's been one of the most gratifying things in my life. He said the first time I did it, it took me 45 minutes to get that dude off the telephone. I mean, he was so excited and so encouraged. Now, what are we doing? We're again putting that other person as in an important position. They feel good about it, and you feel good about it too. Make that telephone call. It will make a difference in their lives. Now, I've talked a lot about values. I've talked about you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. In a recent issue of Fortune magazine, they listed the 10 wealthiest people in the world. One of the men they listed was a Chinese gentleman from Hong Kong who is worth $5,900,000,000. Now, he's the 9th wealthiest man in the world. Has an interesting philosophy. Incidentally, he got his start selling plastic toys on the street. Has 2 sons, and he's taught them the same philosophy. He is a deal maker. He does joint ventures with people. And he's taught them and has always believed that if 10% of the deal for financing it is a fair share, but you could get 12%, take 9. He said the reason that is good is, number one, it gives them a better chance of making it, so it makes your investment safer. Number 2, word will get around, and instead of getting one 12% deal, you'll get a dozen 9% deals. You see, you really can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. It really does work.